onto the streets. Adam Scott Bellos is CEO, the Israel Innovation Fund, and Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF, continues to be with us. Adam, thanks a lot for your time. How are you looking at the events, not just in Russia, but the fact that there are a lot of rallies, for example, in New York, in Sydney, where we've had either openly anti-Semitic slogans or symbols being displayed. There have been stray incidents of Jews being attacked, and now this mob that almost descended to, quote, hunt for Jews in Russia.
What's the question exactly?
What exactly do you make of these turn of events? Do you feel this is anti-Jew hatred that was masked under anti-Israel politics?
Okay, I don't interpret these events to be anything different from the anti-Israel riots and not only riots but parades and protests that we've seen over the past 20 years. For years, everybody has been trying to make the argument that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, but anybody knows that Jew hatred has evolved from a religious hatred to a racial hatred and now a national hatred, constantly denying our peoplehood, our civilization, and our nationhood. This is anti-Semitism. This is anti-Jew hatred. The only people that would be anti-Zionist are those who do not believe that Israel and the Jewish people have the right to self-determination, independence, and statehood. So what do I make of it? I make of it that for the past 20 years, many people have been ignoring the realities on the ground, constantly trying to do different PR efforts in order to rehabilitate the image of the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, or the state of Israel. And that has never, ever worked and never would work, given the fact that anti-Semitism and Jew hatred has been something so deep-seated in the world for the last 2,500 years, and that has mutated into different things. Okay. The religious hatred, its apex was the Spanish Inquisition. The racial rejection, its apex was the Holocaust. Anti-Zionism and the anti-national rejection of the Jewish people, its apex was October 7th.
But, you know, this kind of anti-Semitism, while there are a lot of people raising their voices against it, it also seems to have a lot of supporters. Now, in this modern era, Adam, you wouldn't actually see any kind of open justification for any kind of movement or action, slogans, targeting of any community. But for some reason, people are making excuses for these anti-Jew statements or rallies.
Of course they are. It's because they're anti-Semitic. They're anti-Jewish. Think about it. For years, everybody has been saying, this isn't about the Jewish people. This is about Israel. Well, what do Jews landing in Russia have to do with this? What do Jews in Washington, D.C. have to do with this? In San Francisco, in Sydney, Australia, they were screaming, gas the Jews.
Yeah.
The Palestinian National Resistance Movement, okay, has always been an anti-Jewish, anti-Jew hatred, a Jew hatred movement. This has never been about what people say. When they say it's about Zionism, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, the movement of self-determination, okay, it's a bunch of baloney, malarkey, as Joe Biden would like to say. He loves to use that term. The fact is that this is about one thing: Jew hatred that has been a systemic problem in the world for 2,500 years, since the Jewish people were the very first victims of Western imperialism and colonialism by the Romans when we were exiled from our land for the second time. It's extremely important to realize this is not about Israel. This is about the radical Islamic goal of retaking all of their lost territories of Dar al-Islam, okay, and completely and utterly eliminating any problem or obstacle in that path. The state of Israel, the Jewish people's national home, is the main obstacle to that goal.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Before I go to Sushant, I do want to ask you, how worried are you about this rising trend? And do you feel Western governments or governments anywhere in the world have done enough to stand against this open anti-Semitism?
I'm completely and utterly worried for every Jew all over the world. I actually believe that Jews are much safer in Israel, even after October 7th, than they are anywhere else in the world. If you ever watched my show, Wine with Adam, that was quite popular in Israel, my last episode before the war started was with the former ambassador from the United States, Tom Nides, where we discussed the Biden administration's anti-Semitism policy. And it was hailed as the very first anti-Semitism policy in the modern world. And And when I said I had read it, the response was, "Oh, did you like it?" And immediately I said, "No. How could I like it? It was a one-sided policy dealing with right-wing extremism and white supremacy and anti-Jewish hatred on the side of the right. It did not fully encompass the problem of anti-Semitism from both left to right, right to left. It's very important to understand this is an entire ideology that has been brewing for 20, 30 years.
Okay.
No one is prepared for it. Even the Jewish community is not prepared for it. There's no self-defense classes being given for free in Jewish day schools, synagogues, and community centers. The Jewish community has not prepared for this. The American government has not prepared for this. The only safe place for Jews will be the state of Israel because it is our national homeland and it is our safety net.